thank you on behalf of the 25,000 members of the Chicago Teachers Union who make the CPS schools go every day. I just want to make a quick comment before I get going in my main remarks about the president just recently made a series of remarks about arming teachers, and I do want to say that teachers in Chicago don't want a gun. Arm us with counselors. Arm us with social workers. Right now there's 1,250 students for every social worker in the school system. Arm us with trauma support. We haven't had a shooting inside of a school in a long time, and while it's horrifying that people would bring a gun into a school and harm students, it's also horrifying that students outside of schools get harmed by guns, and when they come into school, they carry the effects of that trauma with them. We want the tools for that, and that's not a gun. Now, I want to begin by mentioning something that President Clark talked about, which is that, frankly, President Clark, with due respect, I don't think that it is sensational to, or a sort of undue focus on the negative at the expense of more positive things, to talk about school closings, which you guys are getting ready to vote on. It's not sensational, it's news. And the reason it's news is because the closings have become emblematic over the past decade and a half as Chicago was embarked on a program of school closings, of the racism and inequality that many people in the city deal with and feel. It's become emblematic of the lack of voice that parents, teachers, and communities feel about what's going on in their schools. And it's become emblematic of a lack of a clearly stated plan that has had democratic input about what's going on in our schools. And I'll mention something more about that in a minute. But one of the things that's undermined this board's credibility is the fact that the rationale for school closings has constantly shifted. And so for years, schools were closed because of low performance, okay? What was discovered is that from 04 to 12, this disproportionately affected students in black schools, right? In 13, you added a new rationales, enrollment and more efficient space utilization. And yet what we found is that of the schools that remained, in fact, that wasn't in fact the case. That the closings had a knock-on effect, and the schools that remained after the closings were in fact still under-enrolled. We also found that you guys had a program of opening schools to compete with the public schools in neighborhoods. So even as you were closing schools for under-enrollment, you were opening new schools. So in Englewood, for example, there have been 9 schools that are opened. 9, 2 Noble schools, a KIPP school, an Urban Prep, a Catalyst, and a Mandala, Camelot Excel, Ace Tech, and 2 prospective charter schools in the exact same neighborhood where there's closing. So again, you offered a rationale that then didn't hold up to scrutiny. This year you add yet another new criteria, community support for the action. And yet then we find out that CPS vendors on the payroll who don't live in that community constitute at least part of the basis for the closings, for the claimed community support in support of those closings. This is an issue that goes to credibility, and it's a big effect on people's lives. And what 13 showed us is that, like, when you offer rationales that don't hold up to scrutiny, people wonder what is in fact the plan that's going on underneath all this. And for those reasons, the CTU and the other community organizations that are involved in this ask you to cancel this vote today and to continue looking. And if you don't do that, at least vote no on these proposals. We would like to see the board not be a salesperson for these proposals, but a neutral arbiter of the public's best interest in the schools. That's what we're asking for, with due respect, President Clark. I want to remind you that you guys, at the end of the day, are an appointed body. And until the public feels like we have until we feel like that there's plans that we can see and touch and feel and understand and believe are the actual real plans and they're being stated clearly to us, there's going to be public opposition to these closings. And so I want to add my voice to that public opposition. Thank you. Let me say one more thing. We do appreciate that you guys, that Dr. Jackson, that you've tried to listen and modify the plans. That's something we're happy to see that. But frankly, that's what happened in 13 as well. There was an initial proposal for 120 some schools, and wound up closing 50. And while I appreciate that and it's a step in the right direction, it does not constitute a sufficient way to address the underlying problems here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I will now proceed with the speakers list.
Our first speakers, Mr. President, will be speaker number 25, please, Yalisma Malakara, followed by speaker number 38, Jerry Filewell.